Hi everyone, so this is a continuation of the videos just doing a walkthrough of some of our workbook questions on E&M. So I'm going to do number 62 because there was a question about outpatient office visits and how to do those. And so here's an example of that. I'm just going to do the CPT code. I just now decided because the last video, it took a very long time. And so I don't want you to have to watch, another 20-minute video. So I'm going to try to just do the CPT code for this, but I will talk about what the ICD-10 code is. Okay, so for number 62, it says a new patient is seen in the office complaining of sore throat and reports a low-grade fever for the past 4 days. The physician performs a history and an examination of the respiratory and lymphatic systems. The physician's impression was acute pharyngitis, and straightforward decision-making was performed. Amoxicillin was prescribed. Okay, so if we are doing the ICD-10 code here, the diagnosis code, we'll note sore throat and low-grade fever are going to be the symptoms, so we are not going to code those, but it does say the physician's impression, and if it says something like that, that's going to imply that this is the diagnosis. So the physician's impression was acute pharyngitis. So this will be the diagnosis, and then the main term is pharyngitis, and then acute. So you would look up pharyngitis acute for that. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go through the ICD-10, but hopefully that helps you if you're trying to get through that one. So what we know about this is it is a new patient in the office. Once we're looking at for the CPT, right? A new patient in the office. So this is going to be an office outpatient visit. We already know it's a new patient. And then what else we need is what kind of history and examination. So it says physician performs a history and an examination, and there's two systems here that they're doing exams of. And then it also says that straightforward decision-making was performed. So if this was anything besides that outpatient office visit, we would really want to know more about the history and the examination and what their different levels were. However, because this is the new patient, outpatient office visit, we don't necessarily need to know too much about the levels of the history in the exam, because once we go and look at those codes, we'll see that it has to be like a medically appropriate. That's the only description. We don't have to do those key components for these kinds of services. So let's go look at it and see what we can find. Okay, so if we want to go to the E&M section, and again, you can start in the table of contents if you'd like. However, as you might remember, it's very clearly laid out, and office or other outpatient services are the very first codes. So office and other outpatient services start on page 18. And then it starts with new patient and established patient. And then remember, we said new patient is either a new patient or has not been seen by this provider in the last 3 years. And we already know from the documentation that we are looking at a new patient in the office. And so the only codes we can use are these codes here, these four: 99202, 99203, 204, and 205. And these are all describing an outpatient office visit for a new patient. And so these all describe the same service, and we just need to figure out what the level is. And then you might remember, basically, so if you look at the descriptions, it just says medically appropriate history and or examination. So the documentation does not even have to have both a history and an examination. It has to have one or the other. And that's what it says for all of them: medically appropriate history and your examination. There's no different levels for history and examination. The only specifying factor we have here is the medical decision-making, straightforward medical decision-making, low level medical decision-making, and then 204 is moderate level, and then high level is on 205. Now, the other factor that we might have is the time factor. And that is another way you may be able, and I've already highlighted them here because I guess I've already used those codes. That may be another way that you can pick the correct level if that is the only information that you have. But what we have in the documentation is straightforward decision making. So we see here medical decision making was high level, moderate level, low level, and straightforward. So we know that 99202 is going to be the correct code. So this is going to be outpatient office visit, low, oh wait, sorry, not low level, straightforward medical decision making. And so that is going to be 99202. And that's it. That's all that you have to do to pick the correct code. You need to know that you're in the right section, and then all of the codes in that section describe the same service. So once you know you're in the right section, you have the right kind of patient, and again, only a few of the sections specify by new or established patient, and this is one of them. Then you just need to look at your documentation and see what it is that you have, so you can pick the right level. And here, all we knew about it was that they did a history and exam. Yes, we knew that he looked at 2 systems, and if we were looking in a different section, that might have been an important role or an important piece of information to help with leveling. But in this section, that was not super relevant. I mean, yes, it's important. We want to know about it. But in terms of picking the right CPT code, all we need to know was that it was medically appropriate. Okay, they did a medically appropriate history and or exam, and then we need to know about the medical decision making, or possibly we could use the time, depending on what the documentation has. But here we know it's an outpatient office visit with straightforward medical decision making, and so the only good option is 99202. So that again was for question 62 in your workbook for chapter 11. So when you're looking at those outpatient codes, hopefully that helps you kind of figure out what it is that you're supposed to be doing in those scenarios. So if you do have questions about this, additional things that you want to look at, let me know and we can for sure walk through some more things. Okay, thanks.